Hey, welcome to the Hired AV podcast. My name is Joe Way.
And my name is Britt Yenser.
And I am your host.
And I'm your host.
Oh boy, do we have a good one for you today?
We sure do have a good one for you today, guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
What are you doing on my show?
I was invited, ?
Well, actually, you kind of invited yourself.
I low-key did.
You did. So, So, I have this rule. This is one of those things. It comes from my kind of management day. Management. I guess I'm in management now. Why am I talking about it in past tense? Of if someone of your staff has an idea to do something, the first thing I say is, "That's great. Tell me how you're going to do it." Right? Because why give me more things to do? It's your idea. Do it. And you had the idea of doing some special. Wait, no. All right. Tell the story how this came about. Why am I doing it? And
okay, so I vaguely remember something about you. I think it was on Twitter, talking about like refreshing the podcast and just, keeping a podcast fresh. And I had texted you and was like, "Oh, hey, I saw that series of tweets. And what if you did like a co-host situation? Because a lot of the podcasts I listen to have co-hosts, and sometimes they have guests, and sometimes they just riff. So like, if you're looking to do something different, what if you co-hosted?" And now here we are.
And that was, I think my response was, "Okay, so when are we recording? When are you going to be?"
Yeah.
And there we, yep. So what are we going to do? This is awkward. I'm not interviewing today. I don't know how to do this either as not as interview or interviewee.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna talk like how humans talk. It's very weird.
Do AV people, are they allowed to do that? Do we know
I
how to
think
do
so.
that?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's I don't know. I guess let's start with the main topic, because you're everybody's favorite new podcaster because of Brave Space.
Thank you.
2 whole episodes down now, right? Well,
I have
time of recording. Oh no!
Yes.
At the time people are listening to this, there are 2 that are out.
Yes. We're recorded in advance. We have 7 that are recorded right now, just casually waiting to drop. So, fear not, the content is coming. I do like to drop episodes bi-weekly, which I learned after you so kindly posted them and we're figuring things out. You're like, "So bi-weekly isn't really a time frame." And it was like, interesting. But I would like for it to be bi-weekly, and so it is, because it's not content that I want people to just consume. Like, I want people to have the time to actually listen to it, to sit with it. And we end the episode with action items. So I want you to have some time to actually do the action item if you want to, and not have it be lost in the consuming of content weekly or daily or whatever. So yeah, bi-weekly episodes.
That is good. No, I love it. And I love just, a little fun fact. I don't remember if I said it on the interview or not, but when me and Lex and Jimmy, dead to me Jimmy, were putting together, taking the podcast and putting it into a media company. And originally there was the digital magazine form. Yeah, that kind of failed. Okay, we forget that era existed. However, one of the things I wanted was a diversity podcast. And what was interesting is I couldn't get anybody to do it. Like, I couldn't get anyone to write with it. Now, again, I don't know if that had more to do with my, my narrow group of friends who I knew. I don't know, or maybe just, the people I talk to, right, not right. And so I love the fact that you didn't just say I'm doing a random diversity podcast, but you're going to attack issues and have conversations. And I think that's really what's needed, because there is such a diversity of voices in our industry. And I think having conversations is just, I don't know, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that storytelling is historically the way that humans have learned, and it continues to be the best way for us to learn. So if we just give ourselves a space to listen to other people's stories, then that's important. That's how we're going to move forward together. And I certainly don't consider myself an expert in DEI. I don't think I'm always going to say the right thing or do the right thing. And I think that's probably at least a small piece of why, when you originally pitched your diversity podcast, that people didn't want to pick up the torch, because it is kind of scary to be like, oh no, what if I say or do the wrong thing? But like, are you going to let the fear of failure like hold you back, or even hold the industry back by saying like, no one's ever going to host this conversation because we're too scared to do it?
Oh, that is good, because I don't. Yeah, wow. Because it's interesting, because like on Twitter, I think the DEI champions, I don't know, don't seem shy to do it. But I wonder if there is a different pressure when you're now on a show and you're saying you have to produce something, as opposed. I guess there is a different pressure there, right? In a sense of having to be right and perfect, and I think that's one of the things that I noticed on, doing this show for 200 and some episodes now, is automatically people assume you're an expert, and that's exactly what's happened to you, right? You're now running the show, so now guess who the expert is, and
Right.
that's a tough thing to live up to. It's almost an impossible thing to live up to, in truth, because you don't have all the answers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why one of my 3 disclaimers at the start is we're not experts in what we are talking about. Like, I, as the host, am not actually an expert, and this guest is not an expert. We are AV people who want to have this conversation. And I am hopeful that that conversation does something for the listener. Either they recognize themselves in some of the things that are being said, so they no longer feel alone in their experience, or it could be someone listening that says, oh, I actually have some control over what you're saying. Like, I'm a person who organizes things at a trade show, or I am a manager. Like, there's something that I can take from this and change something for the better. Like, that's the ultimate hope. But I don't think that the ultimate hope is for, people to listen to it as if we're experts and like take everything we say. Like, and now I've learned, like, well, you take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
These are our experiences, and what we think. We're not like, I didn't study this.
Yeah, and by the way, you are more professional in one episode than I've ever been. Having your disclaimers at the beginning and end, your pre-predict. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, damn, I get 200 episodes in and I can't get that organized. I mean, that is, yeah, I'm kind of jealous. Not gonna lie.
Well, honestly, I think it just goes to the like, what is it? Mimicry is the sincerest form of flattery or something. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I consume a lot of that content. And so I was able to just cherry pick from the different things I listen to, like, how are they structured? What do they do? What are some of the things they say? And I'll do that too.
You're right. Steal away is always a good way of doing it. I actually, still a little fun fact. When I say, I already, and I am your host. My name is Joe Way, and I'm your host. If you happen to listen to AV Week, you'll always hear, and my name is Tim Albright, and I am your host. I totally stole that from him. But the funny thing is, I didn't know that I stole it from him. I just, it was one of those random going, listening to AV Week, probably, 2 months into doing mine, and went, huh, something sounds the same here. And there you go. I totally stole it. But
I think I'm mostly conscious of where I've stolen things from, but some of that consciousness I think did come after the fact, where I like kind of listened back as I was editing and was like, oh yeah, I got that from there. I got that from there. That does make me want to ask, what's your favorite not AV related podcast?
Okay. So first off, I don't listen to many non-AV related podcasts. However, I have a few, and hold on, I gotta give the exact names here, just so that I get it right, because I know the guys who do it. But here, hold on, let me give the exact name of it. Well, I do listen to USC football podcasts. All right. Chandler Bolt, Self-Publishing School, is really good. How to publish your own work. Now, granted, I already have my book. See, oh, you can't see it on this little screen, people. But I love listening to creative things. Also, non-AV. Where is it? There is. I'm scrolling. I'm scrolling. This is live. Okay. Well, the Wrong Burgundy podcast is fantastic, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's if you haven't gotten into it, it's actually really good. And then I listened to I forget what they call the show. Anyway, the guys from Caltech who do a show about the universe, and it's really fantastic and just random stuff about the universe. And that's about what I listen to when I do listen to. What are your non AVs?
So my non-AVs are We Can Do Hard Things. That's Glennon Doyle. And My Favorite Murder. I love a true crime podcast. My Favorite Murder is my favorite one. That's Karen Gilgariff and Georgia Hardstark. And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus just released a new podcast, or 2 episodes now, called Wiser Than Me, where she interviews women who are 80 years old or older. And the very first episode, she interviews Jane Fonda. So, like, really incredible.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I wish I had more time to just listen. So I used to listen a lot, especially when I would take, pre-pandemic, when I was either at Cal Baptist and I had to do the drive to out to Riverside, which is like an hour. So I would listen all the time. I'd throw one. I could get through, 2 20-minute ones on the way to work or home from work and all that. And then when, pre-pandemic, when I would go to USC on the train, I would listen but now it's like work from home. I don't listen to as many as I should. It's one of the, like, I don't know. When do you find time for it even?
I do still commute. Most days I go into the office. So, like, there and back. If I'm not calling a friend at that time, I will listen to a podcast. So that gives me 30 minutes each way. So I find that, these like hour-long episodes, okay, well, that's each part of my commute. By the time I get home, I listen to the full episode. And then I also will listen when I'm like washing dishes, or if I go for a walk by myself, that's when I listen. You kind of just like find the rhythm of your day and see where it fits in. I also, like, I live in a house that does not have a dishwasher, so I'm washing dishes by hand. So that's given me a little extra time to get my podcast in.
It's funny. Okay, so I have this theory about dishwashers. Now, here's the quality content people came to listen to.
Yeah, it is.
I know. And this is very random, but I think the demise of a human race started when they invented a dishwasher. I won't use a dishwasher. Like, it's weird. I know it's weird. It was, and I'm, as a technical person, I should be happy that technology improves. But I wash all dishes by hand. In fact, actually, I'm really bad for the environment because I use paper plates and plastic cups and stuff a lot. I know. All right, so and so some of it is laziness, which of course could be overcome by using a dishwasher. Right? I get that. But there's just something, I don't know. Maybe it's unloading a dishwasher, or I had a bad memory as a child. But there is something that dishwashers to me are completely like, no, I believe that all bad things happen with a dishwasher. And so therefore I always wash by hand.
Okay, can we unpack this though? Like, what is it about dishwashers that you're like bad?
Okay, well, first off, if you have to clean the dish before you put it in the dishwasher, then what's the point of having a dishwasher?
Okay, I get that.
Right? Because you're already rinsing it off. You're already halfway there. Just finish the job. Right?
Yes.
And then you have to, I don't know. Maybe it's growing up without one. Because I grew up as, as a little poor child, right? And with my single mama. And so we never had one. So maybe that was why. And so I've always done. I don't know. It's weird, but I just believe that no good things happen with a dishwasher.
All right.
And I will.
Well, what's interesting when you said that, it reminded me that I read this article a few days ago. I think it was a Times article. That's right. Look at me reading the Times. But it was essentially saying that since things became more automated with like dishwashers, microwaves, and we started to have more time in our homes because it takes less time to use a dishwasher than to wash by hand, or to use the microwave than the oven, whatever. Then people started shifting their home time to family time. And they say that's partially why people are so heavily invested in their children now, and that we have so much like take the kid to soccer and then to baseball and then what, I don't know. I'm not a parent. I don't know what you do, but like apparently there's a lot of time invested in kids now, and they are linking that to the fact that there is less time invested in home chores.
Huh.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Could be true. It could
be.
Actually, it could be true. I mean, but that is the idea. I think, if, the conversation, I forget which show I was on, someone asked me about AI and whether I thought it was good. And I absolutely love it. I'm so pro AI. It's crazy. And maybe if there was an AI dishwasher, it would change my mind on dishwashers. I don't know. But nonetheless, and someone asked me, it will, it was content production. And it was, will this just get rid of like content producers, since you can, ask, go on Dolly and say, give me a picture of XYZ, and then it's pretty good. And even early on, and it will get better. And my opinion was no, if you think that now all those things that we can automate, we can now use our time to push the needle forward, right? So it's like, if we look at where the end is, we can get closer to the end with these tools, but now we can just push where the end is, right? We can continue to put, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense, but.
Yeah, that makes sense. I am curious though. So I wouldn't say that I'm anti-AI by any means. I need to know more about it. I'm kind of on the fence. Did you read the article about the artists that are suing that AI that generates art?
Yeah, and okay. Adobe's big into suing. Well, it's funny because Adobe has their own AI engine, and they're suing because of copyright infringement, right? Because it's using copyrighted material in order to make its stuff. So here's my opinion on that. The lawsuit's going to fail. It's going to fail big time, because there's already been precedent in court about it, about artists who will take famous paintings and they'll redo them, but change something or do a parody of it or whatever. And the Supreme Court has already said that that is not copyright infringement. So an artist can have their own take on something that's already, that is a copyrighted material. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Interesting. I just wonder, so you don't feel like there's a difference, because I feel like they pulled the artist's work. Like I know that Sarah Anderson was one of the artists as a part of the lawsuit. She does the Sarah Scribbles comics, and essentially without her permission, the programmers, I guess you would call them, fed the AI her art, so it's generating all of this data. Like, I don't know. I just feel like when you have data coming into play, like you're creating a source without someone's permission. Like, oh, that's a real gray area.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but what about this? Okay, so you're taking a piece of art or something, or a piece of work, and you're feeding it into essentially just a computer to tell it to do something and give you something else. Well, what's the difference between me going to the Louvre in Paris and looking at the Mona Lisa, putting that data into my computer, my head, and coming up with my own impression of it and creating a piece of art? What's the difference? Just one's a machine and one is a flesh machine.
Right. So your argument is it's something to use almost as a reference. It's not, a copy of the original material. And so, yeah, I mean, I get it. I get that argument.
I mean, that is what we do when we're in school, right? We learn, we take all this stuff to create our own opinions, our own, ideas on the world. And that comes from various influences, of which most of them are copyrighted material, right? Books, art, music. And so I don't see a difference with it. It would be an issue if you fed it to AI and AI popped it out and said it was a work by that person. Then that becomes an issue. But until then, and it won't do that because it's going to want its own identity as it takes over the world. It will want credit for everything. So
I do think that, to be fair, I think that was part of the lawsuit that Sarah Anderson is in, because users generated art that looked very, very similar to her own. And then people believed that it was work that she created. And some of it was not appropriate. It was, it essentially became a defamation of her character because it was spitting out like Nazi propaganda sort of quote unquote art. And it appeared as though it was her work.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I have a problem with that. But if the people who are doing it or whatever and running it are saying that it is inspired by, or it's AI's version of, I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, if it is getting to the point where people say it is mixed or it is mixing with, but I don't know. I just still have this thing that kind of comes with the territory, right? If you're a public figure or you're an artist, there's going to be people who take what you're doing and will take their own spin on it, and both positive and negative, right? Whether they agree with your message or disagree, it just comes with the territory of being public. I deal with it. You're going to get to deal with it. It comes with the territory. So I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Well, and even before AI, this has been an issue, as especially just with the internet period. It's been a problem, people stealing other people's art and twisting it in a way to make it something different. And then there's all this fallout on the original creator. Do you know the like Pepe the Frog meme and the origins of that? And there's even a documentary about it, about how the artist had to deal with all this fallout of people co-opting his meme and making it something it wasn't meant to be, and how he had to try to reclaim it. And it's very interesting.
Yeah.
All over a meme.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Is it wrong of me to think like that? That does just come with the territory. It's just what But then again, think of it this way. Maybe it's more of a jealousy thing for me. Let's unpack this, because I sit there and go, if you get to the point where people can take your stuff and want to actually make memes out of things or recreate it, you're at a good place in life, right? I mean, that means you're having an impact somewhere. People know who you are, right? If most people never get that opportunity to even have somebody mimic them or do. I don't know. That's my thought. Probably.
Yeah, that's not a bad thought. And it also makes me think of, that concept of you can't let fear of something happening hold you back. And I would say that's especially true for women or people in marginalized groups, because I do find that we are the group of people that are more likely to be attacked in that sort of way. But, if you let the fear hold you back, what's the alternative? You're going to sit in a room doing nothing, saying nothing, and being nothing just because you are afraid of some sort of fallout. That's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think that's kind of going, kind of coming back to what we even started, though. It's like getting, new voices out and getting everybody. And so here's the thing. You talked about, how's this I'm just going to completely sideball this conversation. In your conversation with Tammy, and then in your interview with me, you talked about imposter syndrome. Now I know you've interviewed a handful of people, just the episodes haven't come out yet. What have you learned about it, or what are people saying? And I'm asking this pretending I haven't listened to the episodes, but even just from your point, like, what have you learned? Like, is it a real thing or is it a fake thing? Because it's also cool to say you have imposter syndrome too, by the way. Just a side note. There is a little bit of humility thing behind it.
I mean, I do 100% think that it's a real phenomenon. I think that a lot of people, and, from my experience now talking to person after person, it does seem to be a very legitimate phenomenon. And what I find so interesting is, it's people who you would not expect. It's people who I am looking at as an industry expert, someone who has been doing the work. And by the work, I mean AV, not the social stuff, but, doing AV much longer than I have. And they still, at the end of the day, feel like they don't quite fit in, or there's something missing, or they've been faking it somehow this whole time. It's that concept of like, everyone is secretly actually smarter than me, and I don't really belong here. And I just find it so fascinating how many people feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's true. because it is kind of a weird, like, I've always said this, like, AV Twitter is really just the same 50 of us just talking to one another, but there's a ton of people who lurk, right? And I know that because they'll mention things to me later, but they don't get involved. So it's almost like we have our own little soap opera that we just, going on. But we're there, we're out in the public, and people, I always wonder how many people really should be in the public who aren't, because I know how many more lurkers there are, right?
Mm.
And then so to you, because it's not fair if you ask other people and you don't get asked. So do you have imposter syndrome, and what do you do about it?
Oh, yeah, 100%, especially when it comes to working in technology, because from my perspective, if I look at my formal studies, like I studied English and I studied how to be a teacher. It has nothing to do with AV, other than the fact that I had to know how to work a projector to show my students things, and so to go from that professional world to a completely different professional world, and obviously there are skills that overlap, but the what I consider the core skills of like understanding how technology works, that was not a part of my formal studies, and that's what makes me feel like an imposter, because I look around at people who did formally study it in some way. And I'm just like, well, when I was studying English, I didn't take a physics course, like a very different experience. But I recently saw a reel, which is, the Instagram version of TikTok. And it was essentially saying like, no more imposter syndrome. If I manage to bamboozle people this far, then I'm just going to keep going. And that's kind of where I'm placing myself now. And I have to remind myself that there's no way for me to know everything, but I am learning. I'm in a constant state of learning. And I think that for a long time, my imposter syndrome held me back, because I felt like, oh, I already kind of don't look like I belong here. And then I also didn't study this. I just felt like in a lot of ways I didn't belong, but I had to prove that I belonged because it is my job. And that held me back. I wasn't asking questions. I was just kind of like, it was straight up feeling like I'm constantly bamboozling. And now I'm just like, no, I got to be comfortable with myself. I have to ask a question. I have to continue learning, just like everyone else is always learning.
Yeah, no, that is so good. And I think that's so true. It's funny because as you were talking, it made me think of something. I remember when I was like applying to like even a bunch of when I was like even before I got to Cal Baptist and or USC, and I think I even did it with USC. May have not done it with Cal Baptist because that is obviously a Southern Baptist convention school. But I remember taking my resume and taking my degree, like not my degrees, but my majors off because I did my bachelor's in philosophy and in philosophy and archaeology. I did my master's was seminary. And then my PhD is in theology, philosophy, and technology. At least there's a little technology. I pulled it in at the end, right? And so I realized that though I'm kind of in the AV industry and I wanted to want to be in higher ed, and I remember even just applying for other schools, like while I was at Cal Baptist and just looking for other places to go and move to. And I remember like going, the job description said you need a degree in computer science or blah, 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 or even, and I'm like, that's going to get like dropped out. Maybe it doesn't, because I think like, how do you explain to somebody that, no, actually, philosophy teaches critical thinking, right? It taught me how to be a good manager. There's a lot of stuff that comes from it, but it's, well, I don't fit here. Like if all these list of 15 degrees that you need for this job, and I think even USC had that too. So I just take it off. Like on my resume, it just says a year and the school and the city. I don't even list what the degree is in. Right. But I don't know. Like, it's one of those things. Did I end up getting the position because I took it off, or would I gotten it anyway? I don't know. But it was that imposter thing. Like, how can someone with a philosophy degree be working and be a director at a major institution? Right. For the AV side. I don't know. That's weird. Didn't even.
Well, it comes down to, do you believe that anyone can learn anything if they put their mind to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
But a lot of hiring people will, yeah, I'm going to hire someone for this, especially I think as you go up or something, in level. It's easier at entry level. Most people think, yeah, you can, if you've got basic skills, if you haven't been fired before and you show up on time, I can probably teach you something, right? But, as you kind of move up, are you looking for relevancy more? I know, I do when I hire, I
Yeah,
don't know.
one thing that makes me think of though is regardless of how high the position is, every employee needs and deserves to have room for growth. So I think that hiring managers should consider when they look at resumes, if the person is not here, can they get there? Like, are they just not there yet?
Mm-hmm.
Because even like I said, if it's a director level or higher, that person still, I just feel like a job is not fulfilling if you can always do 100% of it right out the gate. Like, what are you learning?
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. Hmm. Wow, and that kind of goes back to what everyone's always said, that women won't apply for positions unless they fill all. But I also think I'm the same way. I have that, like, I'll look at it and go, no, there's someone out there that has all of these, and there's this one is missing, and then it's going to be the one that's like really 90% of the job, and so I wouldn't get it. I don't know.
Well, that goes back to the quote, if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room.
Mm-hmm.
You can't look at a job and say, oh, I can do 100% of that. I'm completely, totally qualified and therefore I'll do it, because I just don't think you're ever going to be happy doing that then, because you've eliminated your possibility to grow and learn. And that's where the fun is.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. And then it also goes all the way back. Let's go all the way back to the AI conversation. That's just about pushing the limits of your job too. Like, I think, I love like when people come in, you know, um, and I have this, so next time I hire someone, I have a way I change the question of where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because to me, that's the lamest employee. Like, what do you? Oh, I want to grow in this. No one knows if they're going to be there. That's the stupidest question. Like, just give me your lame answer, okay? So here's how I've changed it. Assuming you're still in this role in 5 years, tell me where you've moved it to, and what you've done with it.
I like that.
Right? Because again, I'm not going to make the assumption someone's going to be there. The facts are, odds are, people aren't going to be somewhere 5 years, right? The average person
Mm.
only stays 3 years. So, but it lets me know, do they already know what the job kind of is? Where do they see it going? Where can they provide it? Where can they push it and do it? Because that might be a skill I also need that I might be hiring another position for. And so maybe I can go, oh, wait a minute, I've got this skill set that I can use and leverage.
I like that. Do you ever consider personality types at all? Does that come into play for you?
Um, yes. Yes, in a bad way, in a really bad way. And here's why. So Lex has said this before. So last time we hired for a manager. Yes, Will DeWitt can be very thankful because he definitely got the job with Lex's influence. Not that he wouldn't have gotten anyway, but she was the big champion. And here was why. She's like, so Joe, she told me this, you really suck at hiring. And I'm like, wait a minute. Well, first off, I hired her, so I can't be that bad, right? But nonetheless, what she said, her point was this. We have, out of our staff of 12, 13 full time, they're all A-type personalities. They're all you. They're all people who are almost visionary. Get out there, and I love that too. Like, I love having people do that. She's like, so we have no balance. Like, for this role, you need someone who's organized. She's like, you're the most disorganized person I've ever known in my life. So why go hire someone else that's completely disorganized for a role that's operational and looking at tickets and looking at metrics and all of that stuff? So, but my instinct is to automatically be attracted to the person who's the outgoing A-type person,
Mhm.
so, yeah, I don't know. So, yeah. So what's your, how do you look at those personalities, and how do you leverage which ones need it? Because also there's a need for each role. I think certain personality types seem to fit better without
Yeah.
pigeonholing
I
you.
mean, for me, and it's unfortunate, I don't really get to do it because our institution hasn't invested in the profiles and stuff. But I work with a leadership coach who had me do the DISC assessment. So I know what my DISC profile is. And as I read through that, it just so much of it rang through for me and helped me to understand why I do things in certain ways and why I have certain expectations of other people. And I just found myself thinking, like, I wish that everyone's DISC personalities were like on their email signature, pasted on their door, so that I could understand, like, this is how this person would like me to interact with them. Like, this is at a baseline what I can expect from this person. And what I like a lot about the DISC is it tells you how your profile interacts with other profiles, and like your best means of communication given your unique profiles. Like, God, I truly wish that I had more of that information at my disposal.
Yeah, that's good. But also, like, that's also hard with student workers too, because often you're just well, one, it's so hard to know, you know, um, just I mean, when they're coming in, they're part time to know that, but that's also important too, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I remember, like, sadly, I don't work with student workers much anymore, if really at all. I do miss that part. That's the part I loved about higher ed. I mean, I love about higher ed, but I miss the student worker part. But I remember too when I first went to Cal Baptist and I had to um, build my team because there was no department. There was actually no AV department. The whole thing was just like wild, wild west. No, and so they were. And my job was to come in and consolidate, kind of standardize campus and bring in and build the student workers. And so I remember interviewing everybody, and I had the list of interview questions. And so I only had 4 first student workers, and I went through the whole thing. Tell me about this, and tell me about, what is your mail, all that stuff. But there was really only one question I cared about, and it was just so you know, when you take this job, people are not going to call us when things are going right. They're always going to call because there's a problem. So assuming you're walking into a classroom and you're trying to tell me what you're doing and how you're handling the situation. That was actually the only answer I cared about. And the 4 who got hired basically didn't say, well, most people, which is fine, said, well, I'm going to go in, I'm going to fix the problem, and I'm going to get them going, and I'm going to apologize and leave as fast as I can. And that's a perfectly fine answer because that really is the job, right? Fix the problem and leave as fast as you can. But these 4 all said, they attacked the person first, went to the faculty meeting and said, first, I apologize that this is happening to you. I understand that this can't be great. Let us try to, and it was like addressing that issue and, the people problem before the product problem. And that was one of the things. And it's funny is out of those 4, Melissa, Josh, and then the other 2 were Lex and Hunter, who are full-time people on my staff at USC right now, which is kind of funny. When I first got into higher ed, so I've known them as long as I've been in higher ed, which is crazy. And they've worked for me almost outside of, a year or 2 between their graduation and me moving. So it's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, that's incredible. And I like that question. It reminds me a little bit of the question that I ask. So when I'm hiring student employees, I do a formal interview process. And the last interview question, and to me, it's the most important question, is how many windows are there in Philadelphia? And that's my favorite question. I find it the most important because I see in that moment, they've been posed with a weird question. What was their immediate reaction? Like, are they staying calm or are they panicked now? And it's a troubleshooting question because there's no right answer. So what I am seeing is how are they reacting? What questions are they asking me to clarify what I meant by that? And are they trying to get to an answer, even though there actually is none?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. And especially in what you do, because you do live events, troubleshooting. I mean, that is so key, And I always think people who come through live events are always so much better at all this stuff. Because you have to, right? There is no sense of, which I really hate. Oh, this is like my pet peeve. Is we can fix it at the end of the night, end of classes, or we'll put an RMA for 24 hours and we'll tell people that it's like, you can't do that in a live event. Like
Hmm.
you've got like minutes to fix this thing, if that, right? And so that sense of urgency, I think, is lost in the commercial integration side, the classroom
Mm,
support side. I miss
yeah.
that. It's something that we can, that I think that classroom support people can learn is that sense of urgency.
It's interesting that by and large, we don't treat classroom technology the way we treat a live event. Because at its heart, that's kind of what it is,
It
right? Like
is.
this class is only going to happen once in this time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, totally random. So we're past by 10 minutes on this recording. I normally do a rapid round. Are we doing a rapid round?
Oh, okay. Let's each ask each other one random question.
Okay, go.
Okay. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? And by your favorite, I mean, prove to me it's superior than all other flavors.
Okay, there's two. I have a tie, and I will go back and forth. Okay, on them. The first one is I'm sorry, I apologize right now. Vanilla. Um, I know that's so wrong, but yeah, and here's why. Because it's comfortable with there's what you're gonna get. Especially if it's vanilla bean, then you get the little flavor. It's just
Mm.
it goes with so many things, right? Because you can pair it with other desserts. It is like, yeah, it's kind of the vodka of the ice creams. It really pairs with everything. Okay,
Okay.
so there we go. And then the second, if I want to flavor anything peanut butter and chocolate together as an ice cream, because well, there is no better combination than peanut butter and chocolate. And if people don't agree with that, then they're just wrong.
I
They're
agree with that. You kind of lost me in the first half, but you pulled me back in
uh,
with the peanut butter and chocolate. Yeah, I'm on board.
all right. There. That's thing. I feel good. I feel good about that. All right. Um, rank the top 5 Halloween candies in your bag.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, considering peanut butter and chocolate is the best combination, Reese's, anything Reese's, number one. Two, maybe Snickers. I feel like in a lot of ways that's Reese's adjacent. Like even though it doesn't have
Mm,
peanut butter, it's got my chocolate, my caramel in it for sure. Oh gosh. Starbursts.
mm, mm.
Those lollipops that have gum inside of them, even though I always think I'm definitely going to break a tooth on it, I still like to experience the adventure.
Okay, before you go on, because you got to do more. Do you just bite into it, or do you actually suck on it till you get to it? Like, do
I
you?
actually suck on it until I get to the gum.
Okay, yeah, I don't. Okay, and then keep going.
You're like, I need to get to the gum.
So that was 4, which is
Okay, that's
very
4.
eclectic group so far. I mean, if you think about so far, you're at Reese's, Snickers, Starburst, and the lollipop gum. That's
Yeah.
very eclectic.
Yeah. I mean, I like to experience it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the fifth one is probably I just discovered it last year. It's one of the things that I gave out. It was like Pop Rocks, but it was Kool-Aid flavored and Kool-Aid branded.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I miss Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid was
Right?
goodness. Yeah, because you're all. Are you technically East Coast or Midwest? Where are you at? What
I'm East Coast.
East Coast. So do you guys like Kool-Aid is big. I remember with some time I spent in the Midwest, like and Texas. Kool-Aid is big. Like we don't do Kool-Aid out here out west very much. I mean, it exists. I don't want to say it doesn't, but it's not like it was out in the Midwest. Are you big Kool-Aid people out there?
No, not really. I think maybe when we were kids, more like I feel like that was a quintessential summer kid beverage, but I don't think that adults indulge in it so much.
Yeah. It also, and then last, what I didn't even mention at the beginning of the show?
Mm.
There's a video version of this. So most people probably just download and listen, or it comes up on their podcast player. But there is a video version of this if people want to check it out on the website. And kind of fun. These we're doing a series. I didn't even explain. We're doing a series. Okay, so this isn't even just a one-off. This is going to be a series, and it's going to be played on AVIXA TV for the launch of AVIXA Television. Is that kind of cool? And they said, they said, do you do video stuff? And I'm like, I don't do video. But now we're doing video. And
yeah, you didn't do it, but you do it now.
I do it now. I know. All it takes is someone to ask. But it took a lot of work. I'm a little freaked out by it. So because I'm like my eyes are looking everywhere and wondering how I'm doing. So, but I think we did good for this first one. I don't know how we're going to title this because we talked about everything. Pre-record, we were like, here's different topics that we could go over. We actually covered them all in one episode.
Whoops. Well, join us next time to find out where we go next.
On that, here, why don't you close us out? I've got the music going.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this weird, wonderful episode of whatever this was. What are we doing? The Higher Ed AV Media Podcast?
That's it.
And the opinions expressed here are our own and not representative of our employers. And we hope you enjoyed our opinions. But if you didn't, maybe there will be better ones next time.
Dang, you're going to steal my show. Oh, my gosh.